Hello and welcome to episode 37 of the papercraneyarns knitting podcast. My name is Ashley and I own a yarn store called papercraneyarns, as well as my own line of hand-dyed yarns of the same name, and we are located in Central Alabama, USA, which is where I'm coming to you from today. This is a knitting and recently cross-stitching podcast. I spin, of course I'm a yarn dyer, I sew, I crochet, I do all of the fiber crafts. Today I have so much to share with you guys because I've been gone for about 2 months or so. It's May 7th, I think, so we are... So yeah, it's definitely been quite a while since I've been here. We've been very busy. If you watched my previous podcast, you'll know that I had a lot coming up in the month of April. So we vended at the Great Smoky Mountain Fiber Fair in Tennessee. That was the weekend of like the 20th, so the third weekend of April. And then the following weekend, we had local yarn store day here at the shop. So that was incredible. And again, I was super busy. It was just back-to-back events and just nonstop going. So as you can imagine, I have been up to quite a bit since I last recorded. And again, I'm excited to share it with you today. So before I get completely started, let me just briefly mention 2 make-alongs that I have going on that I'm hosting or co-hosting. And they're both botanically themed. So the first one, this one started April 13th, is the Botanical Study Sal, which is a cross-stitch along with my friend Sarah of Handmade by Sarah W. here on YouTube and Instagram. And so we've, I guess, been working on this project for 3 weeks or so now, 4 weeks. Yeah, it's going really well for me. I'm really enjoying that project and I'll show it to you later on. And I know many of you are stitching along with us, and maybe that's how you found my channel. So yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. It's definitely not too late to join if you would like to stitch this beautiful pattern with us. It's a pattern by Barbie Tingsley of Pedal Pushers. I just think it's so incredible, and again, I'll show it later on, but I've also been appreciating seeing everybody's progress on Instagram. So all the people who've been tagging my account, and Sarah, I've been loving following along with everybody's fabric choices and their color palettes. It's been fun because I think a lot of us are stitching in a very similar way. So the dark fabric and the called for color palette, and then I've seen a couple of unique pieces where people are stitching on green fabric or lighter colored fabric, and it's just so fun to see everything coming together. So that's my first make along. It's a stitch along. And then the other one, I talked about this a little bit in my previous episode, which was before it began, but on May 1st, my year-long make along that I'm co-hosting with Gabriella of Merryweather Knitting and Merryweather Living. She's here on YouTube and on Instagram. We are doing a year-long make-along that's all botanically inspired. So we're calling it the Botanical Make-along, and that's the hashtag that you can use on Instagram. So the whole idea is that you can work on any project that you like, any kind of creative outlet, craft, whether it's knitting, cross-stitch, embroidery, crochet, natural dyeing, painting, you name it. As long as it's botanically inspired in some way, then it fits with our make-along. So I know a lot of you who watch this channel are participating, and I appreciate that you guys have been sending me pictures of your projects or tagging me and Gabriella, and I just think it's so fun. And if you have seen any of the beautiful graphics for this make-along, full credit goes to Gabriella. She designed, of course, she did such beautiful graphics for us to use to sort of represent the year-long make-along. And yeah, so I'm having a lot of fun. We have a Discord group that Gabriella started where we're sharing our projects, and our finished objects and just kind of chatter around this topic. So if you would like to join that Discord group to participate with us, then send me a message or Gabriella and we'll make sure to get you into our server. So I will share my projects that I'm working on as we go on. So now I would like to talk about my finished objects because I have quite a little stack of finished objects, and I don't have notes with me or anything, so I don't have like exact dates that I started and finished and needle sizes and whatnot because I have so much to talk about today. I thought I would kind of try to go sort of quickly through everything, whereas sometimes I spend 10 minutes talking about one project, so I'm gonna hopefully not do that today. If you have any specific questions, then please feel free to leave them below for me, and I will do my best to answer them. You can also find show notes and anything that I think you might need down in the description box of this video. And you can also find me on Instagram and Ravelry as papercraneyarns, and my website is papercraneyarns.com. So without further ado, let's get into the projects. So the first one I'll start with is what I'm wearing. This is my very first Ranunculus. This is a pattern by Midori Hirose, and it is just beautiful. I am quite sure you are familiar with it, but this is my first time making my own version, and I love it so much. So this was my first project for our Botanical Makealong. I cast this on May 1st, and I finished it May 4th. So it was a very quick project for me. It was a very large, a very loose gauge, and I had a feeling that this yarn would grow a lot, so I was able to knit it all, I think, slightly shorter. I mean, I knit this whole thing actually exactly to pattern, so I'll give you kind of an overview of the way that I knit mine, since this is such a variable pattern. Every one that you're going to come across is going to be different for a lot of reasons. So I'll kind of talk about what I did with mine, and then I'll stand up and sort of show it to you. First, I'll mention that the yarn that I used is Malabrigo Susurro in the color Frank Ochre. It is gorgeous. I have been really craving like a happy golden yellow in my wardrobe, and so I'm so excited to have worked with this yarn. So this composition is 50% silk, 25% merino, and 25% linen. It's a single ply, and it claims that it's like a DK to sport weight yarn. It's 325 yards or 297 meters to 100 grams. So I would say definitely a good in between sport and DK weight. It's so gorgeous. I'm sure you can tell in the video how drapey it is and very lustrous. The way that it's catching the light, you can see the way that that silk is so shiny and just gorgeous. I've actually first saw this yarn in a Ranunculus project. I watched a couple of videos from Nora Knits, or aka Nora, you probably know who I'm talking about. She's on YouTube. It's Nora Knits, I think. And she knit a Ranunculus out of this exact yarn and colorway, and I just thought it was so beautiful. She took really beautiful project photos, so that definitely drew me in. But seeing the sheen, and it was the perfect yellow, I just really wanted this. So I have never ordered yarn so fast in my life to copy a project. I did knit mine quite differently from hers, I think. It definitely has a different fit on me than hers has on than she has. So we definitely knit it in different ways, but I think, you know, that's still where I got all of the creative inspiration for this. So May 1st, I cast this on. I knit the size 2. There are quite a few sizes to the pattern now. I knit the size 2, and I used, for the most part, the recommended needle size, and I did not test my gauge because I knew that with the sort of concept behind this pattern, I knew that the extra large needles, I believe it was a US 10, which is a 6mm. Yeah, that's what I used for the main needle. I knew that would create a very loose fabric, and then with the composition of the yarn, the silk and the linen specifically. I knew that the linen would have a lot of give and stretch, and it does. Like it grew a lot, which is again what I was going for. So yeah, I didn't gauge swatch or anything. I just kind of kept an eye on it as I worked on it, and I love this one. So again, I knit the size 2. I did the smaller neckline option. There's also a boat neck option. I'd probably like to do that one day, but probably with a smaller body in the sweater so that it doesn't feel like it's just falling off. And then I also did the long sleeves, but I did the A-line sort of, or the short row shaping sleeve. So there is sort of an interesting short row makeup of the sleeve, kind of causes it to be, of course, shorter on one side and longer on the other. And I think it's really pretty. Initially, I was planning on doing balloon sleeves, so I was going to knit with no decreases down to the bottom, and then rapid decrease around the cuff. But I decided to go with the sleeve because, first of all, I do the balloon sleeve all the time, and I think I would like to have a ranunculus with that sleeve detail. But since this was so open, I decided to kind of continue on with that design feature with the sleeves, and I really like it. I wasn't sure if this would be annoying or uncomfortable to have it kind of loose, but you can see it's sort of holding up its own weight. So it doesn't feel like it's just flopping around too badly, at least. And there's quite a bit of space here, so there's like a massive drop shoulder going on in there. And anyway, I actually think my sleeves came out to the perfect length. So that was kind of exciting because again, I knit this entirely to pattern, so when it said to knit the body to so many inches, that's what I did, and the sleeves, it was so many inches, and I remember reading the pattern and thinking that number of inches for a sleeve is, I would never consider that a long sleeve. It would have been like here, very short. But again, I knew that the yoke was going to grow a lot with the lace, and it did. It opened up so much, which of course dropped the sleeve. So overall, everything grew a few inches, which came out just perfect. So I'm really happy with my ranunculus. I'm excited to have finally made one. I have a couple of love note sweaters, and now that I have the ranunculus, I feel like I have the whole like trendy knitters wardrobe. So I'm gonna stand up and just show you my version. Isn't the drape on the sweater just stunning? Gosh, I've already worn it twice, and so I think I said this, but I live in Alabama, and we have been in the upper 80s, I think, all week, or at least that's the feels like temperature. It's quite warm. So honestly, this isn't the most suitable garment to be wearing. I kind of wanted to test it out since it's really open gauge and there's so much linen and silk composition with just like a hint of wool. So I thought maybe it would be a good summer garment, but it's definitely not. It's doable, but it's not comfortable unless I'm indoors. If I'm outdoors, it's not for the best. But now I've tested that and I know that. And I really debated on doing short sleeves and just having it be like a sort of a t-shirt. I think that would have been beautiful with this lace and the drape. So I'm considering getting a little bit more of this yarn and making the same color in the t-shirt version, because I still have 42 grams left of this, and I had 200 grams to start with, so this did not take a whole lot of yarn for quite a large sweater. If I get one more skein, I could definitely make a t-shirt version and probably still have some left over. So anyway, that's that. I really love it. I definitely encourage you to make one in this yarn. I think it's just beautiful. So the last thing I'll mention about my ranunculus, I failed to mention this before, I talked a little bit about the needle size, and I feel like this is kind of important with this pattern specifically, just because the way that Midori has written this pattern, she encourages you to use any yarn that you want, like any weight, any composition, and that's how there are so many types of these sweaters. But as I was knitting the body, I could tell that, of course, that the gauge was very loose. You can see how open these stitches are. And I was worried that if I knit the sleeves in the same way that they would be far too big, because again, I knew that there would be some positive ease already. So I actually went down to a US 8. So I went down 2 needle sizes for the sleeve. And I'm really glad that I did, because it's still those big chunky stitches, but you can see it's a lot denser. They're a lot closer together. So I definitely got a better fit in the sleeves. And then I actually did not decrease my needle size for the I-cord bind off like you normally would. I stuck with the same needle to kind of give it that open kind of look, as I mentioned. Okay, so that's that with the Ranunculus. So this next project will be a fast one, because it's just a pair of socks. They're super cute. But these have not yet been blocked, and I always like to wet block my socks, but I just haven't had a chance. So I threw them on blockers so that you can hopefully see them okay, but that's why they look a little wrinkly and scraggly. But this yarn is KnitPicks Stroll in the colorway Mango Lassi, and I've had it in my stash for a year or two now. I bought this Stroll for maybe $2 for each ball at a KnitPicks clearance sale a while back, and just had it in my stash, and I finally decided to knit them up. So I have 2 socks and they match. The striping matches. They are almost perfect. There is just, on the first sock, there's just a teensy bit of white in the toe, which I think is interesting, and it probably has to do with my gauge when I was knitting each sock, because, or it could be the dye. It could be that one of these is dyed slightly differently than the others, but I'm gonna go with gauge. But even my cast on edge has the same amount of like a little bit of yellow in the edge before going into the full stripe. So I got these almost perfect. But yeah, these are for me. Initially I thought maybe I would gift them, but I really haven't been knitting very many socks this past year or two. So I have like a small stockpile of socks that I wear all the time, and they're starting to fall apart, or like they're not quite as nice as I need them to, or would like them to be. I can't spit that out. They're kind of getting worn, so I sort of need to rebuild my sock drawer with my hand knit socks. So even though I initially thought maybe I would gift them, because while they're beautiful, they're not really colors that I'm super interested in wearing all the time. I figured I can at least, I'll find a way, and they're happy and fun, so of course I will enjoy wearing them. But anyway, these are just vanilla socks, nothing fancy. I did use a contrast color for the heel just to keep the stripes maintained. This was yarn in my stash. It's Stress Knits Eucalyptus, and I did a heel flapping gusset, 9-inch circular needles, 2x2 rib in the cuff. And that's it. I wore them briefly while spinning, but otherwise I've been saving them to record and to show. But again, it's hot outside, so I probably won't be wearing these anytime soon. Okay, my next finished object is another brand new cast on, and it is another little sweater for my daughter. It's so adorable. So again, this hasn't been blocked yet, but I have plenty of time before she'll actually get to wear this. So this was a very quick little project. I have been meaning to make another sweater for my daughter these past few months. I actually have a few babies that I need to knit for, from like friends and family. So I got started with getting back into baby knits with making my daughter a 2 to 3 year old size sweater for this next winter, because she's officially grown out of her other little stockpile of sweaters. So this one's special. I bought this yarn specifically to make my daughter a sweater. This yarn, the main color, is from my friend Kim of Oakwood Knits. This is from her Animal Crossing monthly club. This was the first one she ever did, and it's based on the character Isabelle, who's in Animal Crossing New Horizons. Right? Yeah, Animal Crossing New Horizons. It's been a while since I've played. But I used up the entire skein. So I got a DK weight, one single skein of the yarn. my brain was sort of thinking, oh, she's a baby, she only needs one skein of yarn. And I kind of forgot that she's grown like 2 years since, she was first born, and one skein of yarn was enough. So I used up every single last gram and inch of this yarn to make this. My plan was to have it be in the sleeves, but again, I ran out. So I ended up doing my bind off with one final stripe. So these other colors that I used, this bright tealy minty blue is Lacewing from Lamb Strings yarn. I had this in my stash, so I used up a good bit of that. And then this colorway, I think, is Sugar and Spice from Lamb Strings. Again, it was just a little scrap yarn that I had. These are all DK weight. And then the neon pink is from my hand-dyed yarn from my Barbie collection that I did. This colorway is called Come On Barbie. Just realized there's a fuzz sticking out of the cuff. And then so can you tell I'm a little out of practice? I'm sorry. It's been a while. So this pattern is called Good Old Raglan, and unfortunately I don't think I ever took a minute to even notice the designer's name, but of course I'll have it linked below and I'll have put it on the screen. But it's a free pattern, which is very sweet and generous. It's a very basic raglan pattern, but I think that the sizing is perfect. So I'm going to use this sweater pattern, I think, a lot in the future as my daughter grows and I make her more sweaters. This would be a really easy sweater to input some color work. And I considered that here around the body. I thought I might use some of the Pacific Knit Co. doodle charts to put in here, but I decided to stick with the stripy sweater since the main color is like a highly variegated yarn. I'd rather do the color work with like a solid color yarn, but I digress. This was a really nice pattern, so if you're looking for a really good basic children's pattern, and again, it was free and it comes with lots of sizes, you should check this one out. But this is the 2 to 3 year old size, something like that. And I sort of followed the body stripe recommendations, but I ran out of the main yarn before I could, so I had to sort of adjust the thickness of my stripes. So my contrast stripes are a little bit thicker. And then for the sleeves, I just, when I picked up my sleeves, I just picked up in this colorway and I knit until I wanted to do a little stripy cuff. And then I introduced those colors in the cuff. And then I bound off in my main skein the Isabel colorway because I had just enough to do a bind off and I thought it would be cute. So yeah, this is very like 80s, which I love. I think it's sweet, and it looks almost like a coloring book, which I think is just perfect for, I don't know, encouraging creativity in her childhood. And she already loves it, which feels really good. She'll be 2 in July. So she's really coming, into her own with her personality and her likes and dislikes. And when I brought this home, I finished it on local yarn store day, and I brought it home and I gave it to her, and she just was so happy. I put it on her, and it was sort of like a little like oversized sweatshirt dress kind of thing. It was adorable. She was running around so much that when I went to take it off of her, and she was very upset. So I had to leave it on her for a little while. She became very attached to it. So I'm super excited for her to have this. So that's a sweet little finished object that I just kind of whipped up. Just think it's so cute. So the next finished object I have to show you is a long-standing whip. This was my oldest whip. One of the most fun projects that I've done in a long time, but it definitely took me some time because, well, let me tell you about the project. Ta-da! This is the Stephen West MCal from 2023. It's called Geogradient, and I cast on in October on cast on day. I've talked about this at great length, but just to briefly wrap up on this project, I cast on, I completed clue 1 on the first day. I knit for 8 hours straight, and then that evening is, when I got home, that's when I saw Stephen's email about how we were scrapping clue 1, and it took me a couple days to kind of come to terms with the fact that I needed to redo my clue 1, and so then I did, and then I knit clue 2 pretty soon, like pretty much up to speed, I think, with the whole MCal. And then the rest of it, I just sort of let it fall to, I let it kind of fall behind. And I think it's because I needed a bit of distance from this project, because I went through this really intense happiness and love with it, and then, the whole frustration with the situation, which I understand it, but just the fact that I had already knit it. Anyway, you get the idea. I finally finished it. So when I last left off, I had just finished one of the wings for Clue 3, so that's this slip stitch design here, and I needed to knit the entire second one, and then I still had Clue 4, which was the border and the I-cord bind off, so I had a lot of work ahead of me. But when we went to the Great Smoky Mountain Fiber Fair to vend, we took our truck and we pulled a trailer with us, and my husband was very gracious and he drove the whole way. I was a little bit nervous to pull a trailer, plus we just bought this truck and I am a very good driver in my opinion. I had no interest in driving a brand new truck and a rented trailer and lots of inventory. So anyway, point being, he drove for many hours and I got to knit. So that gave me plenty of time to finish this project. I knit, I think, the entire second Clue 3 perhaps on the trip to Tennessee. So in the car and just a little bit in the Airbnb between, working and sleeping. And then I think I did Clue 4 in its entirety that week that I got home. So I did not let myself put this to the side. I stayed committed to it, and obviously it paid off because I finished it. I finished it before local yarn store day, so it's been done for like a couple weeks now. Yeah, I'll stand up and show it to you in a moment, but to talk a little bit about the yarn, this is Purl Soho Linen Quill, which is a fingering weight yarn, again from Purl Soho. It is an alpaca, Highland wool, and linen yarn blend, and I used 4 different colorways. So the lightest pink, I might not remember all of these, but they'll be down below and in my Ravelry page. The lightest color is called Peony Pink, and my second color is Neon Peach. I think that this third color, this sort of corally color, I think that one is Bright Flamingo, something like that. And then the really bright fuchsia neon is called Pink Joy. I think those are all correct. And I used almost exactly 1 skein of each. I would have had more yarn left over, but I never ripped out my Clue 1 because since it was all modular, I knew that if I ripped it out, I would have a bunch of tiny scrap balls. So I figured I would just save it until the end, and if I don't have to rip it out, then I won't. And thankfully, all of my yarn cakes, I still had plenty of yarn. Like even now, I probably have 15 grams of each left over, 10 grams or so. So I was thankful not to have to rip that out and deal with sort of that yarn management of salvaging it. So yeah, this is about 4 skeins of fingering weight yarn, and it's huge. So I've seen lots of these projects since everybody knit it, starting in October, and I knew it was a big shawl, but mine looks a lot bigger. And I think, so I have knit quite a few projects at this point with Purl Soho Linen Quill, and all of these projects seem to grow a lot. And I'm pretty sure that's because of the alpaca content. The Highland wool, the non-superwash wool, usually that would give it a little bit more of that bounce back so that it doesn't stretch as much. But the alpaca tends to grow a lot. So since it's mostly alpaca, I think there's a good bit of alpaca composition. It caused it to grow a lot, which I'm honestly really happy about, because in years prior when I've knit the MCAL, mine has not been as big as I think some others have been because of my gauge and yarn choices and modifications I've made to the pattern. So I'm really happy to have this one so big. Yeah, it's completely done. All the ends are woven in and all of that. This is my favorite section, this slip stitch section, even though it was the first side that I did was kind of a pain to knit. And then the second side that I knit, I realized it was actually really fun. So I'm not sure why I didn't enjoy it the first time. Probably something that was going on, like, I don't know, in me. Maybe I was really tired during that time. I don't know. but the second wing I really enjoyed. And then the border was really fun. I love dip stitch techniques. I did only do 3 of the colors. Oh, no, I did all 4 colors. I almost only did 3 colors here, but I told myself there's no need to be lazy. I've come this far. I can just spend a little bit more time adding in the rest of the colors. Part of it was because I wanted to bind off in the really bright color because it kind of gets hidden a little bit by the I-cord bind off, but anyway, no big deal. It's all done, and now that I'm done talking about this pattern, I will have even forgotten about those details. The only thing that's left that I might do is I might create some little pom-poms out of the leftover yarn and put it on each of the wings. But, I'm stalling. I've been stalling standing up to show you this because there's a daycare next to me and lots of the parents are picking up their kids right now. And my shop has lots of windows, so I feel a little bit self-conscious that people might be seeing me model this thing, but I'm gonna stand up and show it to you now. It's okay. So, because of the microphone, I'm not going to wrap up in it, and I haven't taken finished object photos with it yet, but I will try to get some photos of it wrapped around me so you can kind of get a good feel for how it looks styled and how big it is on me. This is going to be like such a cozy blanket. Like if I ever get to do a campfire or something, this will be a nice thing to bring and wrap up in, or camping. Actually, I joked with my husband that the next time we go hiking, I will bring this and then he definitely won't lose me. It's very bright, quite a fun project. So I'm so happy to have finally finished this. It's been an adventure, to say the least. I've definitely gotten more comments on this particular project than a lot of my other projects, so I think a lot of you have been waiting to see this finished too. So here we go. It's done. It's so fun. I love it with the yellow sweater. Yeah, I almost don't want to stop talking about it just because it really was a lot of my time. As far as Stephen West MCALs go, this one was honestly not that difficult. It was just very repetitive, so there was just a lot of work to put in, and that's okay. But I will not be doing the MCAL this year, and I did say that last year, and I'm glad that I did. This is my favorite one so far that I've done. But I will not be doing it this year because I have too many shows I'm vending at. I have too many deadlines and things, so I need you guys to hold me to that. I will not be knitting the MCAL this year. Okay, my next knitting finished object is going to require a little wardrobe change. So I will change into my other sweater real quick and then come right back. Okay, I have to start by telling you guys that I am so excited to have just put this on. I finished this weeks ago and then I just blocked it all together about a week ago, and this is very unlike me, but I did not try it on after I blocked it because I wanted to put it on my mannequin for local yarn store day, so I never tried it on. And I am almost going to cry because I think that this is honestly the most beautiful sweater I have ever made. I've made a lot of beautiful sweaters, but this one, I think the overall effect and the way that it fits me and just everything about it, I think this is the most beautiful sweater I've ever made. So I'm so excited. I'm really pleased with the fit. Okay, let me back up and tell you what this is. So this sweater is called Azucena, and it is a pattern by Claudia Quintanilla, who is one of my favorite designers, and she owns the Unit Toronto store. This is one of her newer patterns that she just released back in April, I think, for the Chilean Yarn Festival that happened just a few days ago. I wish I had gotten to go. Anyway, her team reached out to me and asked if I would like to participate in the knit along, so I could knit my own version, and they gifted me a copy of the pattern. They gave me a discount code that I shared with you guys back then, and then they also invited me to create my own yarn kits for this one. So I very happily agreed. I'm so glad that I did because, again, stunning. And I actually sold out of this kit with this colorway. So I appreciate that you guys liked this one too. I do still have my Moon River colorway kit available if you fall in love with this. But anyway, this is my Azucena. Let me stand up and show you. I think what's really making me feel so good about the sweater is the sleeves. They definitely got some length when I blocked it, and I just think they're so cute, very feminine. Actually, what made me fall in love with this pattern so much was this scallop detail here at the neckline, and then this beautiful, like almost Baroque look to the sleeve cuff. I think this is easily one of the most beautiful designs I've ever seen in a pattern. So I'm just really happy with this. And it's got the beautiful fuzzy halo. So the yarns that I used for this, I used 2 bases held double, and of course 2 different colorways. The main yarn was a fingering weight merino cashmere nylon, and that was in my dried poppies colorway. And I held it double with kid silk lace. It's a kid silk, kid mohair silk lace weight yarn, so a fluffy yarn. And that was also in my dried poppies colorway, but as previously mentioned, I dyed it to be a bit of a brighter red so that it would sort of contrast a little bit with the dried poppies, which is kind of a deeper cranberry colorway. I'm so glad that I did. I made that decision because the other colorway is my rose clay, and it has sort of that brick red undertone, but it's a pink. So anyway, I wanted to kind of draw a deeper contrast and specifically bring out the reds, and I could not be more pleased. So again, this is my Azucena. I have to take pictures and send it to Claudia and her team because I just think it's gorgeous. So I did not mention, but this is size 1 of the pattern, and I think that the ease on me was perfect. I did initially knit size 2. If you want to hear the whole story about what went wrong with this pattern, with this project, you can go back to my previous episode. But I think part of why I'm so giddy about this version is because I went through a lot of like silly strife, okay, to get to this point. I have my first attempt right here, and just to keep it short, this was size 2. I did not like the fit, but more importantly, I had sun bleached this yarn. So when I finished the body, I left it out in the sun to dry, but then I was gone for many, many hours. I made a big mistake, and I sun bleached the first side, and then the other side is the original color. And I still had so much yarn left over. This took maybe 1.5 of each of the 4 skeins. So yeah, it did not take a lot of yarn. This took very little yarn. So I had plenty to knit it again. I'm glad that I did and that I stuck with the whole thing. And now I just cannot wait for it to be cool so that I can wear this. But I definitely need to take pictures and send them to Claudia. I don't want to take it off, but I think I will have a heat stroke if I don't. So I'm going to change back into my other sweater, and we'll get to talking about my works in progress. Okay, You know what's funny is here I was going on and on about how beautiful I thought this sweater was, and then I put on that one, and putting this one back on, it feels significantly less beautiful, which is so silly, but that's how in love I am with my Azucena. Okay, let's talk about my works in progress now. I'll start with the projects that I have shown previously, and then we will look at my other new cast-ons. So this first one I have is in this adorable little bag. This is something that I got within the past couple of weeks. This was actually a gift that came with the larger project bag that I purchased. Since I'm using them, I won't save these to the end. I'll just show you. I got this gorgeous project bag off of Etsy, and again, I'll make sure to link this person below. I don't know how often they make project bags because their Etsy shop mostly has these gorgeous English paper piecing pillowcases with like tulip pink fabrics. Very beautiful. But anyway, I just love this bag. And she was so sweet and sent me this little matching tiny drawstring bag with it. That was such a nice surprise. So anyway, we'll talk more about that later. But what's in this bag? Do you see these little bears riding bikes? Okay. I'm very into yellow recently. So this is a very sizable project in a small bag. And that's because it's a lace weight shawl. So even though it feels like it takes up a lot of space, it doesn't. It's large, but small. What am I saying? So this is a present for my best friend, Kira, and I will continue to say this until I gift it to Kira, but Kira, if you happen to be watching this, make sure to turn this off. So my best friend Kira is getting married in November, and I am one of her maid of honors, and I have been wanting to knit her a wedding shawl for many moons now. She and her now fiance, there was definitely talk of them getting married long before they became engaged. So I always, kind of held out hope that I would get this opportunity. And so I've actually bought this yarn like 3 months or so before they got engaged, because I just couldn't help myself. But I waited to cast on until they were engaged, just to be sure. And I just love this knit. So again, this is a wedding shawl that I'm knitting for my best friend. The pattern is called Lace Eater Mashup. And again, the designer name, I swear, every time I edit this podcast and I double check the name and I put it on the screen, I'm like, oh, duh. But I keep forgetting. It's Mary something or other. I'm sorry. It'll be on the screen. She has lots of beautiful designs. So hopefully you can kind of get a feel for the way that this lace looks. This has certainly grown quite a bit since I think I last showed it. There are 6 lace charts, and I am wrapping up the 4th one. I think I have 2 more lace rows left to go, and then I've got 2 full charts, and then the bind off. So I'm definitely making good progress on this. I'm so glad that I started this way in advance, because this is the kind of thing where I'm sort of picking it up and knitting 2 or 3 or 4 rows at a time, because there are so many hundreds of stitches that even though it's a very fun knit, each row takes a long time, and I don't want to ever stop in the middle of a row. So I know that if I'm starting a row, I'm finishing the row, and I don't always have time to sit down and follow like the lace chart and all of that. But working on this is really, really fun. I have helped myself out quite a bit by putting little stitch markers in between each of the repeats. That way, if I get lost or need to kind of fix it, it's pretty easy. And you can see my lace is coming out as it's supposed to, so it's all coming together nicely. It's weird when you start a lace chart and it's just kind of starting to appear and you don't really see it yet, but now that I'm this far in, I can really, really see it. And when I block this, it's going to be stunning. So I think this is going to be such a beautiful heirloom piece to gift to her. And as I've said before, so this is a complete surprise to her. I don't expect her to wear this when she's getting married. I mean, I would love that, but there's no expectation from me because she has obviously her vision of what she wants to look like as a bride. And so, you know, that's wonderful. But I just want her to have a very bridal sort of keepsake, and maybe she will want to wear it. But her wedding's in November, so I think it'll be kind of colder. It's an outdoor wedding. And yeah, so that's that. It is going to be really beautiful. It just grows and grows because every row, even the wrong side rows, you're increasing stitches. So it's going to be quite long, but I just cannot wait to block this out. It's very bunched up, so I can't show it to you all the way. I think I'm going to have to transfer this to my 60-inch cable at this point. I'm on, I think, 40 inches right now. So I'll definitely have to put this on my 60-inch to finish it out so that it's not too bunched up. Oh, and to talk about the yarn, I need to wind up my second skein. But this is Malabrigo again. This is their silk paca line, and it is a beautiful lace weight alpaca yarn with silk. So it's alpaca and silk, which is why it has that beautiful drape. It's so soft, and the yarn is very, very fine. So this weighs nothing. I think I don't know, it's just so beautiful. But the colorway is, I think it's called Simply Taupe. And again, I ordered this online before I knew anything about what her wedding dress would look like. So this is probably not quite the right white to match her dress. So again, I don't expect her to wear it. But if I had purchased this in person, I think I probably would have picked, they have a colorway that was called Natural, and it was a little bit yellow from the pictures, but it was definitely more of a true white, whereas this is definitely more of a beigey taupe. So I think it's white from a distance, but when you look at it closely, it's sort of like a very, very light coffee color white, if that makes sense. So yeah, the idea is there, but it's not quite bridal white. Ideally, I'll have this finished by the next time I record. Her wedding isn't until early November, but we are planning a bachelorette party trip to New Orleans, and that could be as early as August or September. So I would like to give it to her on the trip, or around that time. That's my goal. My next work in progress, again, this is something I've been working on. You've seen this one before. There's definitely a lot more progress on it. This is a shawl mystery knit-along called The Patchwork MCAL by Alicia Plummer. And I have it in my nice big patchwork quilted bag that I made with bugs all over it. This is an active mystery knit-along, but I'm not quite caught up. So you could skip ahead a few minutes if you don't want to see this, but again, I'm still a few clues behind, so I'm not like current with it, but I'm going to show you what I have. So when I last showed it to you, I was a couple weeks behind, and then I actually caught up, but I'm behind again because I decided to focus my attention on some other projects that had real deadlines. So I have a good bit of progress, but there's a lot left to do. I haven't taken this out of the bag in a couple of weeks, which is why it's all wrinkled up. But I'm knitting this out of Cascade 220 Sport. It's the non-superwash sport weight base, and I have 4 colorways. So I've got this Rose Cloud, which is like a soft pink. I will link to my Ravelry page. I cannot remember the names of the colorways. I am very out of practice. But you can see that I have this like bright burnt orange, this deep foresty olive green that was in my stash, and then this seafoam kind of blue, and then again this rosy pink. And this is what I have so far. So I have sort of just a triangle. It's very cute. I have looked ahead at a few of the clues that I'm behind on, so I know where it's going. I'm very excited. I love this whole patchwork idea. It's supposed to look, I think, like a patchwork quilt. It's really nice and squishy because it's all garter stitch. So I will say this is definitely the easiest project I'm working on right now. It's very modular, so there's a lot of like picking up stitches, but the way that she has you pick up stitches and her diagrams, the way she explains it, it's very easy and it looks very tidy. So that hasn't been like a factor that has kept me from doing it. It's just not, I guess it's not the kind of project I can just pick up and knit on because I'm constantly having to like cast on, bind off, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's my Patchwork MCal progress. So my next couple of whips are new cast-ons. I'm pretty sure I didn't cast this on last time. Maybe I did. Anyway, this is in a Knitting Nelly project bag. I got this a couple months ago. It's so beautiful. And of course my project inside matches. I am knitting the Primrose Slipover by Along Anna, I think is the designer. Let's see. I had to harvest the needles or the cable from this morning, so I need to fix it up. But this is my progress so far. So I have the back panel finished, and I have picked up and done the shoulders and I think like the short rows and neckline shaping, and now I'm just working the stockinette portion of the front. So it's very easy knitting, just knit rows and purl rows. So this is kind of a nice project that I can pick up when I can't really focus my attention on anything else. I was kind of planning on just speeding through this one because it's just a slipover. It's a pretty fast knit. But again, I really want to get the wedding shawl done and this, that, and the other thing. So I'm just kind of picking it up when I can. The yarns for this are from Long Dog Yarn. This was from Brandy's The Princess Bride collection. And the colorway I got is Rest Well and Dream of Large Women, which is a quote for Andre the Giant's character. Let's see if it's this beautiful milky seafoam blue, and I've just been really loving this color recently. I'm excited to have something like this in my wardrobe, and I just think this is going to be such a stunning piece that I can wear over like a sheer billowy blouse. I would like to get sort of like a pinky mauve blouse to put under this, have like nice big balloon sleeves, and then this sweet little slip over. It's going to have these beautiful ribbon ties, which I think is such a nice detail. So yeah, this is an exciting project. This isn't like, I guess this is a product knit more than it is a project knit. I get very bored of just straight stockinette sort of knitting, like back and forth. But again, I just really want this finished object. I think the fabric that I'm creating is beautiful. My stitches look really nice and even, which is, I think, nice since this is knit flat. So I'm knitting and purling every other row. So there's always a chance of rowing out, but I actually don't think I see any rowing out. It's a little wrinkled from sitting in the bag, but my rows I think look nice and even. So yeah, that's that. Very excited to have that one. Okay, I have 2 more knitting whips and then I'll move on to some other stuff. I do still have my crochet blanket that I'm working on, but I'm not going to show it because I only made a couple of like the small squares, and I'll show it at a later date when I have more time to work on it. So I've got 2 more knitting projects to show you. I'll start with this simple one. Again, this is a little patchwork quilted bag that I made, the first one that I ever made, and definitely my favorite. I love the color palette and the fabrics in this one. I used some of like my special fabrics that were scrappy in my stash, and I love this one. So in here, I just have a little sock. I have one completely done, so I guess this is sort of a half finished object. I still need to cast on and knit the entire second sock, but I have all of my yarns here. This was my main yarn, and this was from Yarnaceous Fibers Paleobotany Club that Maggie did last year in 2023. I think this was the December colorway, so I got the full year of Paleobotany, so I have 12 skeins in my stash, and I figured it's time to finally start using them. This one was my favorite. I just think it's beautiful, so I cast on this one first, and for the cuff, I used my leftover Moon River colorway. This is BFL nylon. I knit my Moon River socks, which is a pattern by Gabriella. So that's a scrap yarn that I knit in my cuff, and I paired it with, this is a KnitPicks Stroll. I think this is the Dogwood Heather colorway. So this was my cuff. This was my main color. And I used this, which is another KnitPicks Stroll. Can't remember the colorway name of this one. but I used that for my heel. And again, I haven't blocked this yet, but this is how it knit up. So this is pretty much a vanilla sock, but I did something a little fun in the cuff. I would have liked to have knit another pair of Cider House socks, which is a Summer Lee pattern, but I needed some stockinette movie knitting, so I just did a vanilla cuff. But I kind of decided to adopt a little bit of the cuff from that pattern. It's not quite the same because that pattern has 3 contrast stripes, but I just did the 2, but I followed the same number of rows for the stripes. So I did my little 2x2 cuff and cast on, and then I did a couple of rows in that light pink, and so I think the cuff is really cute. And then this is all just straight stockinette, vanilla sock, heel flap and gusset, that's my go-to, and then I did the toe in my Moon River colorway. So I have not worn this yet, but I think this is one of my favorite socks I've ever made. I feel like many of the socks I've made in the past have been kind of like this, where I just saw a fun yarn and I decided to go with it, but it wasn't something that I necessarily knit because I thought the colors would be something I really wanted for my wardrobe and, you know, that kind of thing. So this was sort of one of my first socks that I knit intentionally to go with my wardrobe. This sock and then my Moon River socks, which I've shown plenty of times. So yeah, just something simple. I went and saw Spirited Away in theaters on Sunday, the day after local yarn store day. It's one of my favorite movies, and right now there is Ghibli Fest going on. So they are showing lots of the, maybe all of the Ghibli movies. They're picking like a weekend or 2 each month, and they're showing a different one. So Spirited Away was the one that was just in theaters, and I knew I could not miss the opportunity to see that. Let me tell you guys, it was so amazing. I've seen that movie 100 times, but seeing it on a gigantic screen, I feel like I saw so many details that I had never noticed before, which was really wonderful. I actually went to the movie by myself, which was fun. I haven't done that in a long time, maybe not ever. My husband watched our daughter so that I could go do that, and that was sort of my way of decompressing after we vended at the fiber fair and then local yarn store day. It was sort of the first day that I could just take a deep breath and go sit in a dark room for a while. So I knit the entire leg of my sock, and then I did the foot like the following day. It looks so small, but I need to block it, and I'm trying to make my socks a bit smaller. I have a size 7 foot, and for a long time I've sort of knit them, I think, a little bit too loosely. So now I want to start knitting with negative ease, so I made sure to really tighten up my gauge. I knitted a little bit shorter, just a tad, and I think the fit on this is really nice. So that's my current sock project. That one knit up very quickly, so I need to make the second one. The last knitting whip that I will share, this one is a test knit. This is in this bag. My Ranunculus had been in this bag because, you know, yellow and yellow. And then when I finished this, I immediately did a gauge swatch for this project, and this was the only bag I had laying around to throw a project in. I might transfer this into a bag that matches just because I'm silly, but for now it's in here. So this is a test knit for Teti Lutsak of Teti's Knit Garden, who is one of my all-time favorite designers. And this pullover is called Helica. I love this design so much. I wasn't planning on signing up for more test knits this year because I have a lot going on, but I signed up for this for a couple of reasons. One, the design, gorgeous. I knew I wanted this in my wardrobe, so I figured why not do this during our Botanical Makealong, and it's sort of like, here's a, you know, I don't know. I just thought it would be nice. Also, the testers would receive a discount on Mayak fibers, a pretty nice discount, and I have always wanted to try Mayak, so I was just excited to get that opportunity if she accepted me. I test knit her Polina pullover a few months ago. I loved it. So, and then I just knit her, oh, I forgot a finished object at my house. I knew there was more. Oh my goodness. I'll insert some pictures. Briefly before we get to this test knit, I finished the Bifurca pullover, and I completely forgot it at home. I knew I would forget something. I have a whole other finished garment, and I didn't bring it. I knit the Bifurca pullover. I'll put in some pictures. and I will wear it and talk about it in my next episode. I don't know how I forgot to bring that. It's a beautiful project. So here's a photo, and you can tune in next time to hear about it. So back to the test knit. This is my third Teti Lutsak project. Okay, so this is my gauge swatch, and I think it's beautiful. I wish you could feel this yarn. This is Mayak Fibers Tibetan Cloud. It's really stunning. So I got gauge with the recommended needle size in the stockinette and in the color work. You can see I only did a little bit of color work, but because I had already done so much stockinette here, I mostly just wanted to see if there was a difference in my gauge, and it stayed the same once I blocked it. I washed it, obviously blocked it all at the same time and in the same way, and everything stayed the same on my, I think, 4mm needles. So it all worked well. So I went ahead and cast on once I finished that. This is the yarn, by the way. So again, this is Mayak Tibetan Cloud. It's a beautiful yarn. This colorway is called Lotus Blossom, and then the black contrast is called Black Petunia. It's 100% wool. It's a sport weight yarn. And it says that their wool comes exclusively from an ancient breed of sheep that roam freely on the grassland of the Tibetan Plateau at an altitude of over 4,000 meters. And I just love the whole like ethos behind this brand. And this cloud really is, it's one of the most beautiful fibers I have ever had the pleasure of working with, I have to say. Okay, so I'm working on my yoke. This is a top-down colorwork yoke design. The test knit is due, I think, June 7th or so. So this, I'm assuming, will be out in mid to late June, just so you know. Don't want to touch the microphone, but here is what I have so far. Let's see. Okay, here's the front. How beautiful is this? I'm really happy with the color combination. With her sample knit, for the pictures that she shared with us, she did use the same black for her contrast, but she had a beautiful orangey red, like a deep color for her main color. And I have to admit, I was tempted to just recreate what she had done, but I know that as a pattern designer, you probably want to see your design knit up in different colors, and I think this color is more me anyway. So I'm really happy to see this working up. I think it's beautiful. The black yarn, the floats, it doesn't really seem like it's coming through the rose cloud colorway. Like sometimes when you have a darker contrast colorway, the floats can kind of show through and it looks sort of muddied, but I'm not getting that with this, which is great. So I'm not worried about that. But yeah, I just love how it looks like black velvet in there. My kind of concept with the color palette here was a little bit Parisian. I just think that this soft pinky peach clay color looks, with black specifically, I think has a Parisian feeling to it. And so I was kind of inspired by like that concept of romance and again, Parisian design, and I think it's playing out so beautifully. Just like my Azucena, I think this will end up being one of the most beautiful sweaters I've ever made. So I'm very excited. I'm test knitting size 2, and yeah, not much else I can say about it, but clearly it's gorgeous, and I'm very excited to have this done. This is about 2 days worth of work. I really need to get this done so that I can move back to working on the wedding shawl, and I have some cross stitch projects that I'm excited about. So anyway, this is kind of flying off the needles, but yeah, it's so pretty. Here are my yarns. Ooh, this black is really nice. It's a very, very true deep black colorway, and then there's the rose cloud. I've used up quite a bit of this already since I did a gauge swatch, so hopefully I have enough. I've got 3 skeins total of my main. I know I'll have plenty of leftovers from the contrast, so hopefully we're all set and I don't have to order more. I don't know if I'll still get the discount. So that's all of my knitting works in progress. So the rest of what I'm going to talk about are cross-stitch projects and acquisitions. So I hope that you'll stick around to kind of hear about those things. But if you are only interested in the knitting and you don't want to see purchases and things, then you might want to sign off now. But if you want to stick around for the rest, then let's move into cross stitch, and then we'll do acquisitions after. Here's a stack of cross stitch things to share with you. I'm going to start with, let's start with my finished object. Ta-da! This is a finished cross stitch piece. This is my first ever cross stitch. I have also finished a small, and I'm sorry there's a glare, I'm trying to hold it in a way that it doesn't affect it, but other than a little finished piece that I did in a hoop, this is my first finished piece. It's fully finished. It's been hanging on my bedroom wall, and I brought it today to share. I love this. I feel very proud of it. This pattern is called Egg Hunt by Jody Long of Satsuma Street, and I stitched this with DMC on, I think 16 count Aida, maybe 14 count Aida. Now I don't recall. And so when I bought this, I was still very, very new. I didn't really understand all of like the hype and the amazingness of the fabrics. So I didn't pay too much attention to what fabric I bought. Just I wanted something green and I wanted Aida. I think that the colorway is called Olive, but I'll have to see if I can put this in the description below if I can remember what it is. But otherwise, it's just, there we go. I'll hold it like that. Just DMC. Yeah, I think it's beautiful. I framed it myself. I followed a tutorial video from Liz or Elizabeth of Elizabeth and Can Stitch, and she's here on YouTube. She has lots of great videos and tutorials, and I love yeah, she does really cool projects, but I've been following her tutorials for all things cross stitch here recently. So I framed it myself. I just found this frame at a craft store, and it just so happened that my piece fit perfectly. I've actually had a few questions. I'm really trying to avoid the glare. I've had a few questions about how I went about framing this, and all I did was I took my fabric, I took the piece with me to craft stores, and I just sort of held it up against the glass of all the different frames I was interested in, and I just looked to see what fit. I will say, so I think this was an 8x10, and not all 8x10 frames are alike. So there were other 8x10 frames that were similar, but I was holding them up and they were actually cutting off some of the design. So this is like just barely completely in. The bottom and the top are butted up against the frame, but some of them that I held it up to, they overlapped. So even though it was 8x10, again, they covered some of the fabric. So this one worked out just right. It was in the color that I was hoping for, and I just feel really good about this whole finished piece. This took me about 2 months to make, and yeah, I started it in February, and I think I finished it on April 1st. So yeah, I'm really pleased with this. Let's see if I can hold it up closely. I just think it's so pretty with all of the colors, and this is like a tiered piece, so it's almost like just this lovely stand, and everything, you know, it's mirrored inside of the stand, and let's see. I know that there's a reflection, but I'll have inserted some photos too. And I had a lot of fun stitching this. I got to stitch this in my garden as spring was kind of starting up, so that felt really nice, and so I have really fond memories of stitching this piece. Yeah, I'm so happy that this was my first ever cross stitch. I will cherish this forever. I did sign the back. I'm not going to show you the back. I did not cover it with contact paper, which I could have, and I probably will at some point, just to kind of tidy it up a little bit, but it does the job. Everything's nice and secure. I just signed it in Sharpie on the back of like the mat board, but you know, yeah, that's it. So that's my finished cross stitch piece. Now I'll move on to my works in progress. The first cross stitch whip that I will share is in this gorgeous bag. This is my Botanical Study #1, which is the Barbie Tingsley pedal pusher design. Barbie Tingley, I keep adding an S in there. in my head, and I know that it's not there. Anyway, Barbie Tingley, Botanical Study number 1. This is the chart that Sarah and I are stitching for our Botanical Study Sal, and this is it. So, quick backstory, I went to Nashville Needlework Market this year, and that was where I was going to buy all of my first cross-stitch supplies for the shop. I brought home lots of really beautiful patterns that I've been selling in person when people ask to see them, but I've still yet to put them on my website or put them out on the floor. But just so you know, I have them. I'm working on it. It's a lot of work. Anyway, Sarah came by to see the patterns. She saw this one. It caught her eye in the same way that it caught my eye when I was at the market, and so we decided to stitch it together. We started April 13th. Here is my progress. Let me move my needle minder. I've been stitching this in hand. I started with a Q-snap, and then I realized, wow, I really like stitching in hand. You can see where I just started on the top border there. But here is my piece. I just think it's so beautiful. Sarah and I both decided to use this same Aida fabric. I think this is Picture This Plus in the dusk colorway, if I remember correctly, this fabric. It's a beautiful, deep, it's almost black, but there's like a hint of navy blue to it. It's just a gorgeous, sort of lightly modeled fabric, very deep color. And the floss, some of them are the called for and some of them are DMC. So I have, these are Weeks Dye Works. This is Grasshopper, this is Kentucky Bluegrass, and then these are both DMC colors. That's the Ecru, and then this is one of the golden colors. I had those in stash, so I used those. I still have a couple of the Weeks Dye Works that I haven't even gotten to use yet, like Amber. Oh, I have used this a little bit, I think. But this is Amber, and this one is Bullfrog. Probably can't see them too well, but they're beautifully variegated. I've gotten to use a little bit of Seafoam, which is my favorite. And then I actually ran out of Grasshopper, which is this green, and it's on order. So as soon as that arrives, I will finish up that bit. And then the rest of it, I really just have this top border left to do. So once that green comes in, I think I can go ahead and finish this. I do have one little mistake on here, and I'm okay with it. I'm not going to frog it, but I could. These sweet little patches of flowers, they should be up higher by just a few stitches. So the bottom of each of these flowers should line up with the bottom of these. And I didn't, so I stitched those first before finishing these, and I didn't realize it until I was finishing up the second little like frond, and I realized that it wasn't lining up. So I have this little extra gap, and what's funny is when I was stitching these, I thought it seemed like a lot of negative space, and it's because there is. So I'm thinking I'm going to stitch in here either fleabane, which is what I think this flower is, and if it's not, it is to me. I have lots of fleabane that grows up in my yard, and it looks the same. So I might stitch that on there and kind of make it look like a biology textbook, caption. Or I might put the year, or I might put like NO period 1, number 1. I don't know. I'm going to put, I think, some kind of wording in here. I don't have to, I don't think. Like, I think it works just fine. There is a little bit of a gap, but once all this filigree and stuff is up here, I think it's going to kind of even itself out. But at the same time, I think this is a really nice opportunity to put something a little special in there. So we'll see. That'll be the last step I do. And I'm probably going to do back stitching, and so it'll have like an illustrative, almost handwritten look, like it is like a little scribble, like a botanical study. I just think it would work perfectly. So it seems like a good opportunity, and if it doesn't look good, I can just take it out. So that's my progress on my botanical study Sal, and I mean, it's just beautiful. I love cross stitch so much now, you guys. This is so fun. It is so great to just paint with fiber. I think it's just so great. So I'm very excited to have this. I am going to finish it in a similar way to what Barbie did with the green rickrack and all of that. But yeah, hopefully I'll have this done by the next time that I film. Okay, so the next active whip I have to show you is another really beautiful pattern. It's by the Sprouting Lupine, and it's called, I think, The Last Unicorn or Unicorn's Garden, something like that. It's a beautiful, almost like a medieval unicorn tapestry design. I just think it's gorgeous. However, I am going to frog my progress and start over, which kind of pains me because, believe it or not, this is hours worth of work, but I'll kind of explain why. So I started with the unicorn, and I'm using linen fabric. This is my first time stitching on linen and not Aida, and now that I've done it a bunch, I have the hang of it. But in the beginning, I was sort of, some of my stitches, you know, now that I'm looking at it again, I'm like, maybe I could just leave it. But the problem is, so you're supposed to stitch, I'm doing 2 over 2, so 2 threads of the DMC over 2 threads of the linen. But the problem is my brain was still sort of figuring out how to stitch on linen, and it's a dark fabric. It's this beautiful mottled navy. And so I think there's a couple stitches where I only stitched over 1. So it's sort of like, almost like a condensed half stitch. And I'm worried that if I keep going with this, I'll end up with sort of like a domino effect where I lose my place sort of in the chart, because I've sort of shortened it in some places by stitching over only 1 strand. But you know, now that I'm looking at it, I can't really see where I've done that. So having stepped away from this for a little while, it could be that I was getting a little bit fatigued from stitching on this, and maybe it's okay after all. So I might continue with it. The only other thing is, my stitches do definitely look a little bit messy, especially compared to the Aida stitches that I just showed you, because I was figuring it out. But maybe in the places where they look a little bit thin or gappy, I can just go back in and sort of fill it in with a little bit more, like maybe take 1 strand and fill in those gaps. Maybe I won't rip this out. I'll keep going with it. And if you were not familiar with, if you like don't cross stitch and you see this and you're like, wow, why are you even showing this to me? Yeah, again, believe it or not, this is a lot of work, but I will say, more than anything, I think this represents me, you know, expanding my knowledge of the skill, because I'm stitching on linen. It's like a new process for me. I'm stitching with a PDF on my iPad. I'm actually using Knit Companion. I need to use one of the cross stitch apps to better mark my progress. But anyway, so yeah, I'll have inserted a photo of what this will be, and I am super excited to get this one done. I think this will be so fun to have in my home. Yeah, it's not that bad. I think I can keep going. I have it in this Teresa Kogut project bag that I got on Etsy, and I think this was from Ragtag Quilt Co., something like that. I'm going to sew a new project bag for this project, though. I want it to be something a little bit more garden and unicorn themed. I really want the projects to match the bag, so but for now, this is super cute, and this is all DMC. There's lots of colors. You know, the designer actually says, you know, some of these you don't necessarily have to get. You're only going to use some of these colors for just a couple of stitches, but as somebody who doesn't have a DMC stash, or didn't, I just went ahead and bought all of the colors because they're very, you know, inexpensive, and I thought, I'm kind of building my stash, so I don't mind having this big bouquet of flosses. And then I also just got this to hold, I can show you later, but it's like a floss drop on here, and I picked this one because it's a unicorn. The only thing is, we're just a little bit shy on the number of holes here to add the DMC flosses. And the other thing is, I'm thinking, if I was to take the time to do that for this project, but then only use that certain floss for a handful of stitches, I think it would be a little bit of a waste to put all of those flosses onto here, and then if I need them for projects in the future, trying to manage that and remove them from here or something. I don't know. So I'm still contemplating if I'll add them to here or not. So, but I have it. I'm excited to use it. So that's my unicorn cross-stitching project. And then, okay, so this one I'm really excited about. This next one is not a whip yet, but it starts in a few days. So this is a stitch along. It's a mystery stitch along from the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. Actually, these designers, Ashley and Amanda, their work is what actually got me wanting to finally officially start cross stitch. The Sprouting Lupine, her designs, and then the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. Between the two of them, I just decided it's time. I want to learn this skill. And now, again, I'm head over heels. But the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery, their annual stitch along is about to start in just a couple of days. I have been anticipating this for weeks, if not months, since they've been talking about it, and kind of, it was a slow progress for them to like figure out the exact date and time of like selling the kits and when it would start for many different reasons. But as soon as they announced that they had dates, I've been watching all of Amanda's lives on Instagram and following along. Very excited, and so I'm so happy to have the kit here. I made myself a little project bag. This is the box that it came in. It's so cute. I thought about keeping the project in this box, which I think a lot of stitchers will be doing, but I really wanted to sew a bag, so I did. But I will have this. I'm going to keep this and use it for storage. I have a couple of the little stickers in here that I haven't done anything with yet. So this is really cute. It's like a rainbow sun catcher, and it says a cross stitcher lives here. So I'm going to put this on the window at my house, and it will put little rainbows in my house when the sun comes through. So that's exciting. And then I have little stickers of some of the characters that they've designed. So I've got a polar bear, a puffin, and then this one says Arctic Adventurer, because the theme for this knit along is Arctic Animals Club, and they're calling us Arctic Adventurers. I think it's so cute. I'm so excited for this. So here's the project bag that I made, and again I followed Elizabeth's tutorial video. I linked it on my Instagram page when I shared this project bag. So the outside has all kinds of puffins and polar bears. They're playing in the Arctic. There's bunting, which I always love, igloos, sailboats. I just think it's beautiful. I got the fabric on Spoonflower. I'll show you the inside fabric too once I get these things out. Okay, so here are my flosses for this stitch along. They created these little cardboard floss drop sort of floss organizers. I think it was such a cute concept. There's constellations on the back, and then on the front it says Arctic Animals, and it has our reference keys for all of the floss colors. I love this side, like this color palette is so beautiful. I'm very excited to stitch with all of these. There's such a variety of colors in here, which is exciting. And then this side has more of the neutrals. There's going to be a lot of snow and animals, so lots of neutrals. But I love that they clearly found ways to incorporate pops of color. Again, this is a mystery stitch along, so even though we know the idea behind what we're making, we haven't seen the chart yet, so it's going to be so fun to stitch this up. One exciting thing about this project is we have this beautiful glow-in-the-dark floss braid. It shimmers in person, it's like iridescent, and I actually haven't tested out the glow-in-the-dark aspect of it yet, but we will be using this to stitch stars, and I think that is such a sweet concept. So this is just such an overall beautiful design. I feel like blessed that I get to participate in it. I'm very excited. And then the kit came with some of these bohin needles, which I love. And then I ordered the extras. I got the needle minder, which is a puffin. It's one of the pumpkins. So cute. It's a wooden needle minder. And I got the key fob, which is a narwhal. And my husband and I have like a special thing with narwhals, so that's part of why I feel very connected to this project. I knew I wanted the key fob, so I threw it on a little pair of snips. I have my bag all ready to go for Thursday. And this is my fabric. I chose the Aida option. I almost went with the linen, but I really love stitching on Aida, and I knew that this would be a nice soft Aida because it's Picture This Plus, which I've worked with my other Sal, and I think it's beautiful. So this is the piece that I got. I'll have to iron it, but it's so gorgeous. It is called Nocturne. This is 14 count Aida, 13 by 18. So yeah, this will eventually hold my project. Now I can't remember if we're stitching vertically or horizontally. I don't remember. I love this color. It's like gray and blue. And then here is my inside fabric. It's more Arctic animals. So we have an Arctic fox, an Arctic hare. We've got a narwhal. We've got a polar bear. Puffins. It's so beautiful. I feel proud of this bag. These were actually super easy. I'm going to start making these to sell in my shop because this was a nice, easy project, and the combinations of the fabrics are endless. I've already started putting lots together, and sewing with the vinyl was really easy, and just, yeah, I love this. So I'm so excited for the stitch along. Again, the first clue comes out on Thursday, so I kind of hope I'll get a little bit of extra time to myself this weekend to get to work on it. I found that with cross stitching, I am not able to make as much time for it as knitting, which kind of hurts. Like, I really want to, but with knitting, I can be hands-on with my daughter while knitting, but I can't be hands-on with my daughter while cross stitching. So I really have to cross stitch when she's napping, or it's really early in the morning and she hasn't woken up yet. And so yeah, that's just how it is right now. But this is like a year-long project just about, so I've got lots of stitching to look forward to. And then the last little thing I'll show you with like the cross stitch before I show you some more acquisitions. This is the other project bag that I made. I love this bag. I'm so happy with it. I've had these fabrics in my stash for a while. I've been meaning to make knitting project bags for the shop with these fabrics, but again, with my daughter, I really am not able to have a lot of sewing time, and especially not for very involved projects such as project bags, which are very simple, but there's a lot of steps, and I don't like to get part of the way in and then she wants, she needs my attention, which is totally fair for her. But this was such an easy thing to sew that it took me no time at all. I was able to sew it and hang out with her. Anyway, so I made myself a bag, the bag of my dreams. This one was definitely already an improvement over the first, so I'm going to make a few more of these just to nail down the mitered edge. Like this one, I think I got this bag much better with the edge, with the corners. The first one left a little bit to be desired, but my zipper is just right, and that's usually the thing that I struggle with. So yeah, I will be making these. They work for other things other than cross stitch, but they're perfect cross stitch bags, and I just can't get over how cute this is. I think the zipper is perfect, but the bugs. This is perfect right now because we're having this double brood cicada event. I'll share some footage I got of some of the cicadas that I found. But yeah, just love a bug. I love bugs. Okay, so the rest of what I'm going to share are, I would never normally say haul, but the amount of stuff that I have to show, we're gonna call it a haul. So let's swap back to yarn for a little while. As I mentioned, I was a vendor at the Great Smoky Mountain Fiber Fair, and while I was there, I did get a little bit of yarn. Not much, but, well, I didn't buy much, but my very sweet friend gave me a very beautiful and generous gift, so I'll be sharing that too. I'll start with what I purchased from her. So again, my friend Robin, she started a hand dyeing yarn company called Bird's Nest Stitchery, and she vended at the show with me this year. Not with me, but she vended at the same show that I was attending, so I got to see her yarns in person, which was really nice. And I love this beautiful 2-ply base that she is dyeing on. She had really beautiful tonals. I had a hard time picking between this one and this yellow colorway called Pollen is so beautiful. It's like a greenish sort of yellow, very light. Anyway, I ended up going with this darker color. This one is called Nutmeg, and this is on her Celadon base. It's very beautiful. It's this 2-ply fingering weight. It's an 80/20. It's very soft and squishy and lovely, and she's an Alabama dyer, so she's in Madison, Alabama. But I'm going to make a Tanya pullover, or a Tanya top by Caitlin Hunter. It's that very beautiful sort of lace hem short sleeve top. I plan on making this with that. And so that was all I purchased yarn wise from her. But then as we were packing up, she was so sweet, and she came over to me with a bouquet of yarn. I thought this was such a sweet concept that she packaged it like a bouquet, and yeah, I almost cried when she gave it to me. It was very sweet of her. My husband and I were talking about how it's my turn to give her a gift, so I am going to be thinking up what to gift to her once I bring in some yarn to start dyeing. It's definitely my turn to give her a gift because she's given me a couple of gifts now, and she deserves something for sure. But here is this beautiful bouquet that she gave me. So there is a 50-gram, this is again her Celadon base, that 2-ply fingering weight, the 80/20, so nice. But this is Silver Fang, and I'm pretty positive, oh, maybe this is a 100-gram skein. You know what? I was thinking that this was 50 grams, but this looks like 100 grams. I can weigh it to double check, but I think it is. And these must be 50-gram skeins. So there's one main skein here of this beautiful silver colorway. And then there is a little fade of pinks and purples. And she sent me some pattern design ideas that she had in mind when she dyed these. I'm pretty sure I will be making one of the shawl patterns that she sent to me. I'll share more about that when I start to make it. But here is this gorgeous color palette. There's 5 colors here. I love this very sweet pink. It's called Bubblegum. This one is Strawberry Juice. This one is Cherry Pie. Love these 3 so much, especially together. I think they're beautiful. This one is Merlot. This one is Sangria. And this one is Blackberry. So paired with this gorgeous silver, this is going to be a beautiful wrap. I'm very excited to work on this and to get to knit with her yarn base. I love this yarn base. I always have. It's one of my favorites. So I have lots of beautiful yarn from her to play with now. While I was there, I also purchased yarn from Holly Dye Works. She and I, this was our 3rd year vending together, or at the same show, and I don't think I've ever purchased her yarn before, because I usually try not to buy yarn when I go to shows. But again, I've had like knitting for my daughter on the mind, so when I saw this little bundle, she had a bunch of these bundles for these mini skeins at the beginning of the show, and I had been eyeing them the whole time, and as we were packing up, that's when I decided, because she had one left, that I would go and pick it up. This has the wrong tag on it. She likes to dye literary referenced things. This one says A Christmas Carol, but I'm pretty sure that this was from her new Wizard of Oz collection, is what she told me. So I think you can get this from her directly. And again, I think it's the Wizard of Oz collection, but they are just very cute little minis. They're pastel. I'm going to make my daughter something either striped or faded with this, and I just think it's so cute. She does pastel really well. So we've got a yellow, peach, pink, blue, and green. So that will be a sweet little project for my daughter. And that's it for the yarn that I have gotten over the past few weeks, but I also got this beautiful bat of fiber, again from the show. I made a new good friend, I think, at the show, and I look forward to vending with her, hopefully at SAF. If I get into SAF, because I applied, I'm going to find her right away because she was so sweet, and I loved everything about her whole brand. So she raises all of these animals herself. She shears them herself. She creates the bats, she cards everything, cleans everything. She's just Wonder Woman. It was really fun getting to talk to her, and my booth was next to hers, so I got to eye her gorgeous bats the whole time I was there. And she actually came and purchased some yarn from me, and she's going to make this beautiful yellow sweater. And anyway, this is Crescent Moon Fiber Arts. This bat is Polwarth Corriedale and Merino Sari Silk. It's 3.75 ounces, and it's just gorgeous. It just sort of blew me away. I'm such a sucker for any kind of sari silk sort of blend, either yarn or fiber. This is my first time getting a fiber with it, I think. I've had yarn in the past, but anyway, I'm very excited to spin this. It's a beautiful pinky gray base, and then there's, I would say, an overwhelming amount of like pink and orange silk blended in, with a little tiny bit of greens and blues and yellow, but overall the effect is very pink and orange, so I'm very excited. Once I bought this from her, I just kind of sat there like cradling it, you know, as one does, and I just think it's gorgeous. So this will be my next spinning project, I think, because I can't wait to see the way that it spins up. So that's everything I got from the fiber fair. Speaking of spinning, just a quick update. I did spin that entire braid of alpaca fiber that my friend Lucy gifted to me. She sent this to me a couple of months ago, and I spun it all up. So this is 100% alpaca from a small farm that she is familiar with, that is local to her, I think. And I just thought it was so special that she sent this to me, and I really wanted to get it spun up. So I spun the whole thing. It's about a lace weight, and right now it's a single ply. I decided not to split this onto 2 bobbins and ply it together, because I'm either going to knit with it as it is, as a lace weight, because I'm planning on making fingerless mittens, or I'm going to spin another kind of farm fiber. I have like a browny gray wool, sheep's wool, in my stash that I could spin and then ply it with this really lovely coffee colored alpaca fiber, and then I can have a 2-ply of like the wool and alpaca and have it look like a very beautiful natural color and get that 2-ply and then make mittens out of that. But I'm kind of contemplating, well, I was contemplating knitting with this as a single ply, but it is, I really spun this as a lace weight. I like to spin fine, and this was so nice and easy to spin, and very easy to get it consistently at a lace weight and fine. Oh my gosh, it's sitting really nicely. I obviously haven't done anything with it yet, but I'm just pulling it off and realizing that it is not breaking, it's sitting flat. I'm really pleased with this spin. So thank you again, Lucy, if you happen to be watching this. I really enjoyed myself with spinning this up, and I'm excited to see what I end up doing with it, in terms of plying and then knitting with it. But yeah, that's my spinning. Oh, I do have one more yarn to show. This is a pretty chaotic episode. This happens every time I'm gone for a long time, and then I have a lot to show. I have one more skein of that Mayak Tibetan Cloud yarn, and when I was purchasing the colorways for my test knit, I was considering doing the vines in this bright red with that pink color. I think it would have been really fun and striking, but I ultimately decided, so I ordered the red and the black, and I decided once I did my gauge swatch that I wanted the black. So with this, I am going to make a party line scarf, which is a new pattern, first pattern by Casey Apple of Young Folk Knits. It's a sport weight, and that's what she used, and I've been wanting to do like a cute red scarf, and since I was already going for like a Parisian style with the sweater, I thought making the party line scarf and having it as like a hair scarf and a neck scarf while wearing the sweater, then I get all of the colors, it'll be beautiful, and something about it feels even more Parisian, so it's going to be like a very romantic sort of wardrobe piece. And this year, that's what I've been trying to really focus on, is knitting pieces that felt like very intentional for my wardrobe. So creating this as an accessory, I think will be very functional, but specifically with this sweater, I'm just so excited to make all of the things we're getting near the end. I have a couple of books to show you. So I did get the second printing of Summer Lee's The Sock Project book. This has been, this is a beautiful book, definitely well worth the buy. There's lots of great information in here, lots of patterns, and tips and tricks basically to creating really nice socks. I definitely have some plans for socks out of this book. There's one in particular that I want to make first, and I was planning on making that my next sock cast on, but then I went to the movies and yeah, but I really want to make this one right here. It has this cabled cuff. It's just her color palette. I'm going to do the same thing. I love the pink and red stripes, this burnt brownish color cable on the, it's like a slouchy leg. Anyway, so The Sock Project, beautiful book. And then here is a book that I've been wanting for quite a while. This is by Claudia Quintanilla, and this is her Making Memories book, which is a children's knitwear pattern book. And you might recall this title. She created a hardback version, I think, and it was like this beautiful green. But then the paperback version came out, I think, this month. So I pre-ordered this and I got it. I just got it. It's so stunning, and reading the intro, like the preface to this book, had me kind of in tears. Reading about her sort of design inspiration for this book I thought was beautiful, and getting to know that little piece of, you know, the artist is always wonderful. But there are some very beautiful patterns in here, like this Nicoletta, and there's one in particular, there's Angel Trumpet, but there's one in particular that is going to be, I think, the first one that I make for my daughter. And I want to eventually make all of them. But this pattern called Robin, it's so sweet. It's like a cardigan with this beautiful lace collar flounce sort of thing. I just think it's so whimsical for a child, and you know, childhood is such a precious thing, so fleeting and just beautiful, and I feel like what better time to wear something so whimsical, you know? So anyway, I can't wait to sort of adorn my daughter in something like this. But everything in here I could and hope to make. The sizing in here is, it's like from baby to let's see, to like 10 years old, so plenty of time to make all of the patterns in this book. It's just gorgeous. So yeah, that's the Making Memories book by Claudia. Okay, now just a little bit more cross stitch to show you, and then I'm done. I purchased the Cottage Core stitch box from Starlight Stitchery. This was like a mystery kind of box that was all Cottage Core themed. So this is the pattern book that it came with, and I love the patterns. I think this is beautifully made, beautifully printed. I'll just show you like a couple of my favorites. I think the one that I will stitch first is called Cottage Core Sampler by Stitch Sprout Cross Stitch. I'm gonna try not to show you any of the charts. But here is this one, the Cottage Core Sampler. It's so cute. I have to stitch this one first. I love the letter and the hat and the little mushroom Dutch oven. It's just, I mean, it's too cute. So that one is going to come to fruition quickly. It's also pretty small, so I think I can have a nice little quick start on it. This one is really beautiful, this little cottage. I think I would stitch this with a pink cottage, so I would change that blue to pink and then keep everything else the same, but it makes me so happy because when I think about my house, this is how I feel about my house. So this feels special. But yeah, there's lots of really beautiful patterns in here that I know these designers will be releasing later this year. That's really cute. There's one more in here I wanted to show you specifically, if I can quickly get to it. Hello. It's by Foxy Floss Shop. Flossy Fox Shop. It's like an 8-bit cottagecore style, and just I feel like that is the epitome of me as a person, just 8-bit cottagecore. I love it. So yeah, that's that. And it came with some really cute little notions and things. I'm using this as my cross stitch box, so right now I'm storing all of my cross stitch things in here. On top I have some fabrics. So this is the fabric that came with the cottagecore box. This colorway is called Morel. I picked the 14 count Aida. That seems to be my thing. This is Starlight Alchemy hand dyed fabrics, which I think is their Starlight Stitcher. I think this must be their fabric. It's dyed in Oregon, and it is this beautiful, very lightly modeled silver gray color. I do think this is beautiful, and I will definitely use it for one of the pieces, I think, one of the patterns in that book. Okay, I've been recording for 2 straight hours. I will hopefully have edited a lot of this down, but I can't even believe I didn't even bring one of my finished objects. So again, next time, I hope to record sooner next time. This was just a really busy past 2 months, but thank you so much for watching this, and I look forward to chatting with you all again next time. Let me know down below what you've been working on, and if you're joining our Sal or our Mal, and let me know how that's going for you. I'm going to include some garden footage, so I hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, until next time, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you guys later. Bye.